Hi guys, tonight I will be discussing how you deal with staff, especially illness. That is something that a lot of cleaning companies really struggle with. First of all, please remember it happens to all of us. Don't think I'm a cleaning business owner and I'm the only one that suffers with this. Every single cleaning owner suffers with it. Actually, all businesses do. So it's one of those things. Try not to let it get you down too much. But tonight I want to sort of discuss what I did to cut my illness down quite dramatically. You'll probably find I am very strict, but I knew how important my reputation was and how important it was for staff to turn up and to actually do the work they were supposed to do. As way of induction, I am Ilse Whiteman. I run a successful cleaning company for 12 years and I'm now the creator of the Cleaning Coach Training Academy. So, staff illness. So basically what I did in my company, you might not agree, but I got to a point where I was so desperate I needed to do something drastic about it, was I used to pay my cleaners a base rate. Say, for instance, £8 an hour. That's not what they earned, but that's like a base rate, and then I paid them an hour, £1 per hour for like attendance if they turned up every day, and then I used to pay them an extra £1 for, say, for the cleaning standards and no complaints actually came in. So it was the base rate, and then if they turned up, and they will get another £1, and if they then weren't ill, the punctuation always found with, even if they turned up on time, so they had to be on time, did their job, not leave early, no customer complaints, and that sort of then runs into the employee of the month I always ran, which was, if you get to a stage where somebody did turn up all week and they weren't ill, they had no complaints and did a marvellous job, then I rewarded them extra. I basically what I organised for that cleaner of the month was the fact that they actually got their own houses cleaned. You know how you clean like all day in your cleaning business, you're out and you're cleaning customers' houses, and then you get home and you're just like, oh, now I've got to do my own. So I rewarded my employees that literally was there. They turned up on time. They did a cracking job. No complaints. They weren't ill. They were rewarded by like their house being cleaned, and that's like an incentive to get them to turn up. Another sort of a rule I had in my book, and remember guys, you have to be strict, you have to put your rules out there and you have to tell them before. There's no point saying afterwards, oh look, I'm just making these rules up as I go along. Have them in place, make sure your employees know exactly what's expected of them. So I expected them, they had to give a 2-hour notice if they're going to be ill. There is no if buts or maybes about that. There is sometimes the fact that they just literally couldn't. There is obviously extreme circumstances they really couldn't. Then obviously there's things in life that just happen and you don't have control over, and that's fine. But they had to. It will be a disciplinary action if they didn't. But they had to phone 2 hours before to let either me or the manager or somebody know. They had to speak to us. Don't send us a text or an email, because that's so easily done. The other thing that I found worked really well is I said to most of them, look, if you've got a little cold, I'm sort of have always been under the impression I will still go to work, because the fact is, like, I'm still going to feel horrible at home, so I might as well go earn some money and still feel horrible. You just have to deal with it. But I normally said to them, look, if you're going to pull a sickie or be off one day, you might as well be off for 3 days, and then statutory sick pay that's when statutory sick pay comes in, and therefore at the end of the day, you're going to lose 3 days kind of worth of money. So I think they kind of like looked at me at the time like, oh wow. I said, well, if you're going to be ill for one day, might as well make it 3 days. That way you lose 3 days worth of money, but if you're really ill, you will have that 3 days off, because you really need 3 days to recover if you're that ill and you can't come into work. So it's just a question of how you want to deal with it, making sure your employees know from the start what they need to do, what's allowed and what's not. Please don't ever afterwards say this is how it works. If they don't know, then they're going to just take advantage of you in any case. And when something happens, you jump on it like it's like the most important thing, and you deal with it. Like if an employee doesn't, you make an example of them so your other employees can see what she like means, what she says, but you do mean what you say. So it's a question of, you know, you have to act on it. You have to be strict. There's no leeway. There's no if, buts or maybes. And then that way you can sort of cut your staff illness down quite dramatically. And you're just saying to them, look, I turn up every day, and I work, I support you, I pay you wages, and, you know, I expect the same from my staff. We can't let our customers down, ever. Because if you let them down, that's your company that's being let down. Your company name is going to suffer, not them. So it's very important that you make sure of those facts. And like I say, remember, they have to phone and speak to you. Yes, sometimes it might be 4 o'clock in the morning, but I wanted them to phone me, not let your husband phone me. You phone me because you work for me, and I want to talk to you if you're going to be ill, and discuss what's going to happen from there. And I will say, like, if you're really that bad, then you need 3 days to recover. So stay away from work for 3 days, and I'll make sure from this end is covered. And once people saw that I took this very seriously, it did actually cut my illness down quite dramatically. You know, in the sort of the early days where you only have like 4 or 5 staff, and then you like somebody calls in sick, and you already have a whole day's worth of plans, or maybe even cleaning yourself, and then you're like, oh, what do I do now? Kind of thing, and you just like want to pull your hair out. So you know what? Have 3 days off. I promise you, they won't have a lot of 3 days off. Because they know they're going to lose 3 days worth of money, and then they're like, oh, okay, I'll come in then. But too right, you're going to come in, and you're still going to do a good job, and you're going to make sure that the customer is happy, because at the end of the day, they pay the bill. And the 2 hours, very important. They let you know that sort of time scale. You might even have a longer time scale, but I think that's very important. So you have 2 hours to sort something out, or let customers, or email them before you have to go out, or whatever you need to do. So you can let everybody know how it's going to work, and always make sure that you do cover. And if you do find cover, please make sure they're the same standard as the actual person that's there. That's why I always say, make sure your training is very consistent. Every single person in your business are trained the same way, on the same materials. So it's very consistent, the cleaning. If the cleaner goes in and they're not as good, you're going to get complaints. And if they're better, your customer's not going to want that cleaner back. So don't put your business in that position. That I was there, and I was like, oh, okay. I've had one staff member that they just literally said, I'll never want her back ever again. She stood and spoke to my daughter for literally like 40 minutes and didn't do the cleaning very well. So obviously that was a hard lesson to learn, but I did lose that employee. That's customer. Because of that, they were so upset. But that cleaner worked for me for years, so I thought she was right. But that was in the beginning of my business. So I just would like you not to kind of like make the same mistakes I did. And then, like I say, once again, if someone's out of line or somebody does it, jump straight on it like a hot stone, because I think that's the most important part. If you can just get people, if you employ people, if you can just get them all to turn up, do a great job, customers are happy, you're happy, and that's such a nice place to be, when you don't have to then on top worry about the illness and cleaners not turning up. So just stick with it, and be strict. And even if it's somebody you know really, really, really well, don't let your cleaners see you give preference to somebody else, or maybe the first person that worked in your business, because you tend to be a bit more closer to them as your business grows. But don't let them get the opportunity to see you not kind of like do that, because that might at the end of the day then cause them to think, well, what's right for her, so they're going to do it, but you'll lose respect. And respect is so hard to earn, because you have to earn it, and once you've lost it from your employees, you've kind of lost it. And when you do deal with your staff, even when it comes to normal sort of situations, I would always say, always deal with empathy and find out the situation first. Don't just jump in and go, blah, 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 you haven't, or you haven't, or you haven't. Ask loads of questions. Make sure, I mean, did they have the right materials? Did they have the right tools? It's all these things that you kind of like need to take in consideration when you deal with your staff. But feel them first, understand where they're coming from, ask loads of questions. It might be something simple, like they even might really struggle, or something they haven't done, it's too heavy, or whatever the case may be. Just dig deep, and then get them on a one-to-one basis and sort of say, right, so this is, what can we do about it? What happened? You might find out that they don't want to work for that customer because of something that's happened, something personal to them has happened. So it's always worth finding out, digging before you say don't do that again, and don't ever go in. I made that mistake in the beginning where I was like, clean that and clean that, you have not cleaned that properly, do that again, oh, and do it again and do it again. And I learned that if I speak to my employees like that, then basically at the end of the day they just like, yeah, right. They just didn't take no notice. Because I didn't take the time to understand them and to sort of see where they were coming from. And, you know, it's hard. You sort of get to where you're sort of 10 customers, then you get 3 new members of staff and you're like, yay! And then all of a sudden you lose a customer, you lose 2 staff, and then you're back down again. Then you go up again, then you lose staff again. And it gets to that stage where that's very frustrating. And the reason I implemented the steps of basically to cut down the illness was I got to a point where I didn't even, when my phone text message went off, I didn't even want to answer it. When the phone rang, I didn't want to answer it because I was like, oh no, somebody else is ill. I can't afford to like cover it. So I understand kind of like what it felt like, but basically it's quite simple. I did try loads and loads of different things to try to sort it out, but at the end of the day, those sort of things like worked very well for me. The payment structure, and when I first introduced the payment structure, my staff wasn't too happy. That already worked for me, but I explained why, and I think that, well, they agreed because they kind of like, if you're working as a team, say for instance, and then say there's 5 people and that one person always lets the team down, so it brings your company morale down, and it just gets to a point where they're not happy, you're not happy, that person isn't happy because the other staff members aren't going to be very happy with them. So it's a case of just getting like, talk to everybody, right? How can we get this down? You know, I've had this idea, from now, this is what we're going to do. If you're going to have one day off, you might as well take 3 off and not be paid for it, because statutory sick pay only comes into play after 3 days and you get paid statutory sick pay. That's obviously for the UK. Yeah, then say to them, obviously the 2 hours notice, make sure they do that, and they have to phone you, and they have to phone you until they can actually speak to you. Don't leave an answer phone message, don't text, don't email, don't Snapchat, don't nothing. You phone and you speak to me. I want to know why you're ill. And if you, like I say, if you're really that bad, in most cases you're going to need 3 days to recover. So I mean, they're quite simple to implement. Don't go and say, right, I'm cutting down stickies, blah, blah, blah. Talk to your staff, have a group meeting, and see what they think. And they might even come up with better ideas, you never know, to help you deal with the staff issues. Please remember, if you've got any comments and you would like more advice or help on this, or even more information on how to easily implement this into your business, leave me a comment below. Remember to give me loads of love hearts because I love those. And if you share this video, I will definitely personally comment below so that you've shared it, and then I'll personally would like to thank you for the actual for the fact that you actually took the time to share. So thank you very much for coming on live. I will see you next week, Wednesday evening. Bye.